Hi guys, sorry we're a bit late. Technical difficulties today. The fun thing is though, if you're watching the replay, which is the only people who'd be watching this right now, I am not the only Stacy you're getting today. We're also getting Stacy Barnes. So you have two Stacys, you have two podcasters, you have two Californians. I'm trying to think of anything else. You have two people who think it's way too hot in California today. I always end up talking about weather in those first 5 minutes. I don't know why. It's a sickness. I think it's because in California we have no real weather. So I get fascinated by people having weather other places. I'm always like, it's so snowy there, isn't it? And they're like, no, it's not really. And I'm like, but it should be. I just imagine that everybody has really dramatic seasons because we don't. We have June and July where it's kind of gray, and then we have this where August is hot, and then we're done. And then the whole rest of the year, everyone just wants to be us. We'll just go with that. Nice. Yeah. In Arizona, it was always hot and hell. Those were that was the delineation. Or I had a friend of mine who used to call it summer and then Chamber of Commerce season because the 9 months of the year that is not summer is just what we put on postcards and how we trick people into coming there. That's pretty much how it goes. All right. So I am Stacey Harris. For those of you who don't know, this is my show, Hit the Mic TV. We do it every Thursday at 2 p.m. I'm a social media strategist and trainer. And every once in a while, not all the time, but every once in a while, I bring on really cool people to talk about stuff, all sorts of things. We've talked about relationships. We've talked about working with your partner. We've had people. What else? What other guests have we had? We've had people who talked about systems. Lots of cool guests. And today I've got Stacy Barnes with me, and we're talking about branding and branding consistency and how branding's not just your logo, and branding consistency is not just putting your logo on everything. So we'll dig into that. But before we sort of get started officially here in a minute, why don't you sort of introduce yourself to everyone? I have extra letters. I'm just generally extra. That's right. Yay, I'm excited. So I wanted to talk to you today because we were talking about really the importance of brand consistency on social, because obviously I work with clients on sort of the digital marketing perspective. So we are talking content, we're talking social, we're talking strategy. We're really talking literally, especially for personal brands, all of the front facing, all of the stuff that people see. I joke a lot about it sort of being the above the water stuff. We've all seen that graphic about the iceberg and what's really happening is this massive thing underneath. I want to pay attention to all the stuff that's above the water, because if you can get that stuff on point, it can go a long way to accelerating that know, like, trust factor. If you can keep that consistency, you don't have to get people to buy in every time they move further down the funnel or the road or whatever you want to call it, right? And it's funny because I feel like sometimes there are seasons in our business. I've been doing this 7 years now, and I feel like sometimes there's seasons in our business where we sort of swing dramatically from one end of that scale to the other. Like, we sort of go into hibernation and we're like, I'm gonna build the greatest program ever. And then we're like, no one bought the greatest program ever because we didn't market it. And then we go, you know what I need? If I just had a better brand, if I just rebranded, that will solve all of my problems. And so we go back into our cavern and we rebrand. And then we're like, how come that didn't work? Oh, it's because we still haven't tried to sell them anything. And so I feel like sometimes you're totally right. We want to make it the cure-all. We want to make it the thing that's going to like fix our business. But also I find for a lot of my clients, especially as somebody who has a personal brand and works with a lot of clients that have personal brands, sometimes there's this really big confusion, and I fell into it too, where like if I'm a personal brand, as long as my face is there, that's branding. And that's not totally true. So can you give us an idea as a personal brand, what kind of assets we need to have? Because I really want the takeaway here to be like your face and your logo are not like the end of the list. So what is the sort of like mini checklist we need to have, sort of minimum viable product to make sure we can maintain that consistency?
I mean, whether it's Instagram or even Facebook, you want to mix that in with some other graphic elements. And the way you can do that is simply by choosing 1 to 2 brand colors or 2 to 3 brand colors and maybe 2 to 3 different fonts. And you use those consistently throughout your entire feed. And it's both on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere you're on social, your website. If this is the least that you take away from this call, just pick those 2 to 3 colors, stick to it, and those 2 to 3 fonts, stick to it. And that'll help you go a long way in helping tie your brand together visually without overwhelming yourself with so much stuff. So if you were to hang up right now, which I don't want you to, go and figure out what your 2 to 3 fonts are, or 2 to 3 fonts and 2 to 3 colors. Figure out what those are, and that is going to be what you're going to use to create anything else, whether it's an Instagram graphic, a Facebook ad, your website. Those 2 things are going to help you create content that's visually consistent.
Awesome. And I just want to say super thanks to Rebecca, who let us know there were some audio problems, all fixed on the audio front. It was on our side. We had tech issues before the show started. My software decided it needed to be updated right now. Things happened. So thank you, Rebecca, for letting us know. But yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think sometimes we resist the idea, and I think this comes up in a lot of ways. It manifests itself in a lot of ways. We resist this idea to get consistent with a narrow sort of like aesthetic, the same way we resist getting, with an ideal client or with an offering, because at some point we think, oh, well, so-and-so is doing this, so that's what I should do because they're successful. And then we jump from one idea to another, and we end up sort of trying to embody other people's brands versus really, really stepping into ours. And I really love sort of, and this, you and I you were a part of this conversation that we had on Instagram this week around, I posted, I want to say it was yesterday or maybe the day before yesterday, about a structured grid or a spontaneous grid. And I think even that is going to be a brand decision, because it's sort of what makes the most sense for your brand, which for me always comes down to what makes the most sense for connecting with your ideal clients. I think as a personal brand, it's really easy to fall into this thing that it's about me and what I like. And it's not, guys. It's super not. And it's funny because Denise Duffield-Thomas posted this not too long ago, that Denise Duffield-Thomas and her personal brand, is a part of who Denise is. It's not the same thing. And I've tried to be more transparent about this lately, but the Stacey Harris is not the same as Stacey on the weekend. The Stacey Harris is sort of an amplified version of a section of my personality that's useful for you guys. Because really, the rest of my personality is wildly useless for you guys. I assure you, it is just, it mostly involves like Netflix and champagne and the sofa. That's pretty much the whole of the rest of my personality. And so finding out what is going to connect with those ideal clients, finding out what it is, the tone and the structure in which you're going to connect is going to help you choose those colors. It's going to help you choose those fonts. And then taking that into your overall aesthetic. And that's what I kind of want to move into now is how important is it that when we're choosing these, we really think about how they're going to look and feel on these different platforms, because we do need that consistency, right?
Mm-hmm. Can you rephrase the question? Sorry, or just say it again.
So when we're choosing these fonts and colors, how important is it that we look at, okay, where are they going to go on the back end? Are they going to go into our email? How are they going to look on our website? The readability of these things together. Mm-hmm. That's got to be an important step when we're sort of identifying which one works for us, right?
Yes. So what I recommend that people do is they have one core color that's darker and one core color that's lighter. The two colors that I use are gold and blush pink. Blush pink does not show up as text. If you try to write out like a text in baby pink color, it's not going to show up. But gold works magnificently against white text. And vice versa, if you try to put light pink on a black background, it'll pop and it'll look great, but the gold text not so much. It doesn't stand out. It starts to blur. And when you choose your core colors, kind of consider, I mean, you can even have the two core colors and then even a lighter and a darker version of each. So let's say one of your colors is blue. It works great as a dark and it works great as a light color. Pink, not so much. It doesn't translate as a darker color. So I had to pick a different color, gold, to work with that. So make sure you have a darker and a lighter color when you're choosing colors. When you're choosing fonts and things like that. If you decide to go with a script font as part of your brand, I highly recommend that you use it very sparingly. If you're doing a quote graphic, I would even do the entire quote in a basic script in a basic sans serif or serif font, and then maybe accent one of those words using your script font, just because of readability. And like Stacey was saying earlier about having that consistency in your Instagram feed without just putting your logo on every single thing. One of the ways that you can be consistent is by using that same script font in various graphics. And so when people see that, then they'll know, okay, this is Stacey. This is who she is, and because she uses the same font over and over again. A mark of a great brand is one where you can figure out where the piece of content came from without seeing the logo. So I know I'm trying to think of a good example. So with Target, Target is known for their bullseye logo. It's this bright red circular logo. I'm getting off on a tangent with choosing fonts and colors, but I wanted to emphasize this point. So Target is that red circular logo, but they don't put it on everything. And they've done a great job of branding stuff by using just their colors. You see the red and the white, and you know that's Target. If you see blue and yellow, that's Walmart. But with Target, they have and they use the same font, Helvetica, through everything. I have never seen them use anything that was not Helvetica. But like I know when I see red, white, and Helvetica, that's Target. And you want to do the same thing. You want to have your brand colors and your fonts so on point that when you put up a quote or a graphic, that you don't even have to put your name on there. People will instantly recognize that came from you. And so that type of consistency is very powerful, because the more that people recognize your brand, it increases that know, like, and trust factor. And so the more consistent you are, that more that embeds into their head that this is who I am, this is who this person is, and every time she shows up in these colors. Female Entrepreneur Association does a great job of this. Their stuff is always pink and girly, and they do have their logo sometimes, but you can kind of tell when you open up their feed on Instagram, it's pink. And they use all these colors. Here's the thing. People are like, oh, I don't want to use pink. Everybody uses pink. Use whatever the heck you want to. Like, when it comes to choosing colors, one great example of this is Kimra Luna. She has the most loud and bright colors I've ever seen in branding. She has like a dark blue, a chartreuse, which is like a lime green, and then this bright pink. And I would never in a million years use those colors for myself, but she is extremely consistent when it comes to using these. She does it in all of her graphics, whether she's selling her BTBY course or a Facebook ads course, it's always the same thing. She's got this space theme. So if you want to look at an example of a really good personal brand, Kimra Luna really rocks her personal brand. She loves the kind of extraterrestrial whatever, so you go to Freedom Hackers and you'll see like little spaceships and things like that, but those are elements that are part of her brand. And so I want you to think of elements that are that you like, that would translate well to a personal brand. Here's another thing about colors. You need to use colors that are, quote, easy to use. My favorite color is actually not pink, it's actually canary yellow. But you don't see that in any of my branding because it's extremely difficult to work with. It's really hard to find pictures that have that yellow in it. If I really wanted to, I could, but I'm just thinking for me personally, like I want to make it easier for myself. And the fact that my ideal client likes pink, that's my secondary favorite color, fine, I'll go with that. And so it's a lot easier for me to use pink and gold. I like it. It works for me, so I use that consistently in my brand. But if you happen to like lime green and orange, and those are your two favorite colors in the entire world, you're not going to be able to hide that anyway. And so might as well just use lime green and orange in everything that you do, and people will follow you for the value. And the fact that you're using those colors consistently, like with cameras, those colors don't attract me visually, but the fact that she was using it consistently, I stuck to her. I loved the message that she had, and I actually appreciated her and saw her as an authority figure because she was so consistent with those colors. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on a really good point. It is a couple of things I want to sort of bring home here, which is it doesn't need to be your favorite color. I get asked a ton if pink is my favorite color. No. It's like not even in, like, it's just not on the list. It's not. It initially started because I had pink hair for 5 years, and the pink that was in my brand was literally the same color as my hair. And it stuck. But you'll notice if you look at my branding, it's not the primary color because it's really not. Black is actually, which is just all the colors, cool, is my favorite color, which is why there's so much black and why I wear so much black. So it doesn't need to be your favorite color, and it doesn't need to be the same as what everybody else is. I think, and maybe I see it a lot because it's so mine, but black, white, pink, and gold, that's what we do. And so I see a lot of that. I also, for a season there, saw a lot of like aquas and turquoises. Like we sort of go through these trends. Don't attach yourself to Kimra did, or Female Entrepreneurs Association did, or Stacy. No. What is going to connect with your ideal clients? What is going to connect with your style? That's the key takeaway that I want you to have here. And I think that's why Kimra's is so successful, is because it's Kimra, and that's her, and you feel that in her stuff. And so I really want to encourage you guys, when you're looking at your personal brand, even though it's called a personal brand, you're the last person it's about.
Yep. So I like that.
Don't get too caught up in this idea that it's you and you have to like everything. It just has to connect people with you. I almost think of it like like sense memory. Like I want you to feel me when you see certain things. You know, I think about this a lot. One of our favorites is Disney. I think one of my favorite brands to study is Disney. Another one is Apple. When you see those logos, when you see those brands, when you see even just pieces of those brands without any real identification, you have a certain instinct. You have a certain pull. That, to me, is a good brand. It has zero to do with them really liking something. It's about that connection we make in our brains. It's about that sense memory piece. And so that's, I think, why consistency is so important. Because that's where we get that. Is literally just being hammered into us over and over and over again.
Yeah.
All right. So I wanna wrap this up with one more question for you, and that's really the importance of, and I know the answer to this because it's something we talk about all the time, but I really want to hammer this home before we wrap up. The consistency, the importance of the consistency from network to network to network, and in our website. How do we make sure that stays consistent? Is it a matter of having our brand assets outlined? Is it a matter of having templates? How do we make sure we're keeping that consistent look? Just a couple of tips so that we can sort of make it not necessarily boring, because I think that's the instinct, is it's always the same, people will get bored. But also, how do we make sure that consistency is going across while keeping it interesting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first things first, to ensure the consistency piece of it, again, choose your 2 to 3 fonts, choose your 2 to 3 colors, and then make sure that is the only thing you're using on any platform, whether it's Facebook, whether it's your website, Instagram, whatever. Just make sure that's what you're using. If you have a website and I see this a lot and it drives me insane. If you have 10 different fonts on your website, you pare it down. Just, if you need to, make everything the same.
Is having some sort of identity crisis. Like it's just like a visual representation of a personality disorder on the site.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's too much.
You don't want to be you don't want to be considered a personality disorder when somebody goes onto your website. When you do use fonts that are consistent and you do use the same ones over and over again, the same colors, that shows that you know what you're doing. I want to say even if you don't, but I'm pretty sure that most of the listeners here.
Assuming you guys all know what you're doing. This is merely a turn of phrase. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so, I mean, as long as you have the same 2 to 3 fonts, here's what happens. I'm going to do a little side note. When you guys are using templates for websites, or it doesn't matter, any kind of templates whatsoever, I would rather you change every single font on there to one single font that you have in your brand, and then go back and change some of the more highlighted stuff to script text or whatever, to make it more branded. But those templates sometimes use 5 different fonts, and then you add your own fonts, and then it just becomes a whole font mess. And so just change everything so it's exactly the same. And then same thing with colors.
Are your friend.
Global settings, yes.
And more of the templates, especially for websites rather, are getting better about those global settings. So before you go in and start messing around at the page level, I know I use Thrive on our site. It can be, because you end up with a lot of individual templates, save it as a template, bring it up on another one, and then you've got all of your global settings attached to that already. Go in and update your global settings. When you start doing things individually, that's where you end up going, oh, I missed that. I lost that one.
Yes.
So that makes it easier. Sorry, go ahead. Just little things.
Perfect. No, I'm glad you said that. So, yes, change the global settings. If you're in Canva and you're creating graphics in Canva, they have a brand board thing in there. I don't want to get too much into it, but basically you can set a template, a palette of colors, just pick 3 colors of your colors, change it out, so that way it's always there whenever you create a graphic. So if you grab a template from Canva, just change the background, change all the colors immediately before you start to do any work, change all the colors, all the fonts to your fonts and colors before you start working. So that's going to help with consistency. For stuff that's already there, for stuff that's already on your Instagram feed, I would not stress about redoing it just from now on. Because that's not a good use of your time. Just from now on, just consider making your feed look more consistent. And then people will even see, on Instagram, people can even see, this is what you wrote before, and then they can actually see that difference, and it's oh, this is cool. She's starting to make progress. She's starting to, look better. And I've seen feeds where it was a hot mess, and then all of a sudden it changed. And I'm oh, that's really pretty. They know what they're doing now, or they're taking this stuff seriously. So it's you can just leave the old stuff. It's totally fine. But yeah, so again, just to kind of recap this whole thing, pick your fonts and your colors. Audit your sites, your social media, make sure that everything is consistent, and from this point forward, make sure that you're using the same fonts and colors for everything.
And I think that's I want to make sure we hammer this home before we go. Don't worry about undoing what's happened. I get this question a ton with social media, where somebody will come backstage and they'll go through one of our trainings and they're like, oh my, I can't. What was I even thinking? I don't know. Do I need to start over? No, you don't need to start over. Here's the deal. No one is paying as close attention as you are.
Yes.
Just no. And one of my favorite examples of this is Marie Forleo. If you go look at her YouTube channel, and you go to her channel, and you go to videos, and you look at all of her videos, you can see the evolution she has made with Marie TV. It started literally on her sofa in pajama, yoga wear, with her laptop in her lap. That's where it started. It did not start as the highly produced show it is now. It's a part of your story. Don't worry about deleting it. Worry more about what's happening moving forward? What are your next steps? I think that's where you have the impact. And I also think being able to scroll back, being able to see when things were a bit of a hot mess, there's a humanity in that, which for a lot of personal brands, for a lot of coaches and consultants, that humanity, as much as we try to polish and shine everything, that humanity is what gets you clients. That humanity is what gets you brand ambassadors. That humanity is what gets you fans for life.
Yes.
So don't be like shameful. Be proud that you're taking new steps.
Yes.
Yeah? All right.
Absolutely.
I get so fired up about this because often we do go into it with this like, oh my God, what was I thinking? And it's like, you were thinking you didn't know yet. Like, we have new information now that we didn't have before. Let's move forward. Cool.
There you go.
Where can everybody find you? Because season 2 of the podcast is coming out, right?
Yes. Season 2 starts August 28th, and you can go to brandonblossom.com to find that. You can also go to, if you want to find me on Instagram, I'm at Stacey A. Barnes, and you can kind of see how I do my feed. Not to promo my feed here, but like I'm not like hyper consistent like we were talking about. I like having the feed a little bit more organic. I do plan my posts and use the grid and all of that, but it's not so structured that I can't be spontaneous with it. And that's the other thing too, is you want to be a little bit more flexible when it comes to things like that. I'm teaching again. I'm gonna back up.
No, it's funny because we were talking about that on Instagram, and one of the things that I'm actually going to go in and talk about on there today is sort of, and in stories, is sort of this planned spontaneity. The reason mine goes from structured graphic to random photo of me is because, like, sometimes that's something silly, sometimes that's something super teachy. I have sort of planned spontaneity. I have a place every other post where I get to post whatever I want. But when you look at the feed, you still have that, like, oh yeah, that's all Stacey. That makes sense. So figuring out that sweet spot, I think, is the key to a personal brand. Is sort of that like planned space to be weird. Also, stories makes it great because whenever there's something that is not going to fit in my grid, it just goes in stories. Like my blue versus gray wall debate currently happening in my stories. Feel free to come vote. I think it looks blue now.
What's the stats on that? Now it looks kind of green to me, but anyways.
it's like it's some sort of weird color changing mood wall. It's a mood wall.
It's a mood wall. I like it. It's a mood wall.
How cool would that be, by the way?
That's awesome. Now I want one. I need that backdrop.
I think it just depends on how my lights, because I moved my lights.
Yeah.
And so I think it made it look bluey green now. It is kind of bluey green now. But anyways, what's the first one is 70. When I looked earlier, it was 75-25 blue. That's the 75. And on the second one, it was 75-25 gray. All the people who voted blue the first time voted gray the second time, and vice versa. So I feel like you remember that a while ago, that blue and gold, white and gold dress debacle that happened on the internet? I feel like this wall might be the next one.
Yep.
Anyways, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you, Stacey, for joining me. I will be back next week, same channel, same time. It'll just be me next week, though. And I don't remember what we're talking about, so this is a terrible tease. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm sure Stacey will be happy to answer them. I, of course, always answer them because, it's my page. And we'll see you on Instagram because you should clearly come follow both of us.
Yes. Thank you so much, Stacey.
Of course. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.